All right, class. First off, as always, good day. So this is chapter 1.2 on the government class. Now, if you have the packet, you're ready to go. But if you don't have the packet, be sure to put on the side, warm up, notes, answer the question, things like that. That way, it's easy for me to grade, and that way also it's not just a jumbled up mess, and I have to like really look for your answer and stuff like that. Because if I had to look for it, I might overskip it thinking it's notes. Like I said, I do read them, but if I had to go searching, I got tons of other classes and students who read their papers, so helps me out, helps you out. So be sure you do that. All right. So without further ado, let us begin. All right. So here is the warm-up picture. Um, First off, analyze the picture. Okay, what do you see? What do you think you see? Okay, now do not worry about how to spell certain words. Okay, again, this is a history class, not an English. So, but I mean, don't make it like JKT149. Don't write like that. Just if you can't spell a word, try your best. Okay, I'll get the idea. Okay, just try to spell the word. Um, with that being said, too. Um, Take your time on this. Okay, remember this is a video, so you can also pause it so you can really look at it. Okay, and just remember that throughout the video. You can always pause it to write down the notes or go back to if you didn't hear something right to get it down. Okay, so after you analyze this picture, what do you think this artist is trying to say? Okay, so you see the images right there. Look at the facial expressions. Look at the image, how it looks, and again, what you see may be different from what somebody else sees. Somebody else might know like the symbolism and things like that, so that might help them out a little bit more. But if you don't know, that's fine. Okay. Again, this I'm just starting to see what you see and what you know. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about the two types of government systems. Usually, there's a unitary and a federal system. Um, the first one, the unitary system, is basically like this. There is no local government. There's no, city government. There's no state government. It's just the federal government. Think of it like that. So if there was a problem on your main street in town, you would have to basically go to the capital, which would be, in our case, be Washington, D.C. in Maryland. So you had to travel all the way over there or send paperwork all the way over there and let them know, hey, there's a problem on Main Street in your town. Chances are, do you think those people like Washington D.C. knows what's happening here in California? Probably not. They might not even know the town you're in. That's it's a possibility. So if you give a specific thing like a name of a street, they're not gonna know what it is. And also think of it like this: how many cities are there in California? And then think about how many cities are in every state. And then is every state here connected to us? You have to remember Alaska, that's way up there. Hawaii, way out to sea. So think of it like that. How long would it take to get stuff to them as well as us? Okay. This type of government is not good for large countries. This is really good for small countries, where the government is like in the center and they know the area, you know. So for small countries, this is very good. Now, what we have in this country is the federal system, and that's basically the power of the government is distributed between national, state, and providence. So national, state, and local government. So in your particular city, you have a mayor, you have councilmen, things like that. So if there's a problem, like with the pothole on Main Street, and you say it's on Main Street and let's say Cross Street, they know exactly where it is. They know exactly the pinpoint area where you're talking about. At the state level, you say I'm from such and such town, they're going to know, oh, okay, yeah, I know where that town is. I've driven through it. It's near this area. They have at least a more or less idea. what you're talking about. Okay, so that's why we have that system. But also is there's also a confederacy under the federal system. Now, confederacy is independent states that are loosely connected to each other. They're independent. They each state does their own thing, but um, they're sort of connected. They're not, united all the same. They don't have the same laws and things like that. So they recognize each other, but they don't have the same stuff. Okay, they might trade things and do things like that, help each other out, but that's about it. Okay, they're not the same. All right, so now the Constitution. It basically has three main purposes. First off, it sets out ideals that the people believe in and share. So at the very beginning of our country, people believed, we can stand on our own. We don't need England, to babysit us in a sense. We can take care of ourselves. That's something we all believed in back then. Um, we believe in that now too. We don't need some other country telling us what to do. We can handle ourselves. Um, Also, has established the basic structure of the government and defines its powers and duties. So basically, it's like it says what the government can and cannot do, and which we're going to do later on is talk about the powers of each branch of the government, the legislative, the executive, and judicial. Okay, so we're going to go over that as well. It's going to say crystal clear like what they can and cannot do. Well, I shouldn't say crystal clear because it's kind of room for error, which we will talk about in a little bit too. The third thing is it provides the supreme law for the country, right? The laws for us, laws for the government, things like that. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We are not the first country to have a constitution. Okay. But we are the ones with the democratic constitution, and a lot of other countries basically took our idea and made it their own. Countries like France, Kenya, India, Italy, Switzerland, they basically, it's like when you see a kid in your class and they have like, they did like such an amazing job. You're just like, in awe, you're like, they did a great job. That's how some of those countries saw our constitution. And so what they did was like, you know what? Let's kind of use that as a foundation for ours, but let's pick off on it. Let's add something. Let's take away here and things like that. So there's some things in our constitution that they liked and they kept it and for theirs, and something they didn't like they took out, and there's some things they felt was missing and needed to be added, so they added it. Okay, but if you look at the basis of it, the foundation, it is kind of like ours. Okay, which is fine, you know, and that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a beacon, you know. That's what our country was kind of in a sense not really trying to do, but it ended up being that way. We ended up being a beacon, democratic constitution. Now, constitutional government, which we are, is a constitution that has a clearly recognized limit on power of the government, which we have. The government is not all powerful. They cannot do whatever they want anytime they want, things like that. They cannot. And our founding fathers made sure of that as well, which we'll be talking about later on. Okay, so here is your midpoint question. Do you think that the Constitution is complete and cannot slash should not be changed? Why do you think this? So what I mean is, do you think that it is perfect the way it is? Do you think that it's just great? There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine the way it is. Or do you think that, what, we should really look at it again. There should be some revisions. Um, it's not complete in the sense that um, it's not crystal clear on things. It's not black and white. So what do you think? And if I think about it, I think I might give you the answer or lead you towards the answer, which I do apologize. Okay. Um, I don't know. I can't really remember. I just got up and did some stuff, so I kind of forgot what I did instead. So here's the writing prompt on the bottom. It says, I believe that the Constitution is not complete, and your reasoning, okay? Now remember, your reasoning is the key, all right? So be sure you put that down. Again, the only way you could be wrong on an opinion piece is if you don't answer, you copy off somebody else, or your answer is so left field it makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, so again, if you put like I believe the Constitution is not complete because Harry Potter and Hogwarts people told me not to, no, see, that's just who's Harry Potter? What are you talking about? That's how I would react when reading it, and that'd be a straight zero. Okay, so be sure you put down something and that it's actually, you know, worthy. Okay. Remember, you're getting a grade on this. All right. So here is the answer. I hate to do this. I kind of wish there was like a space between, another thing, but there is not. It wouldn't work that well. Um, the one thing is that not every law could be written down the first time around. These guys were smart, but they knew they couldn't tell the future. Right? They left room for error. Um, so they didn't say like, oh, it's just right to search and seizure. The government can't come in without a search warrant, things like that. You search your person property. They kind of left it a little bit vague because the thing is, they didn't know what the future was going to hold. So you didn't know, like, well, like phones. Great example, phones. Can a cop search your phone? Because under the Fourth Amendment, they can't take anything. Well, if they're searching your phone, listening through either on landline or through the airwaves, they're not really taking anything. So, you'd be fine for them to look at that. But what we did now is because it was so vague, and there's the privacy, issue that is under the term, of the Fourth Amendment. Okay. Now, if it says straight up, just papers and this and that, then maybe we wouldn't have a legal way to get around it. But because the wording is vague, we do have a way to get around the stuff. All right. Um, Also, the Constitution doesn't always reflect the actual practice of the government in the country. Yeah, it says the stuff, but then we can also change things. Okay. So, for a great example, is in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, it's about how the House of Representatives gets power. States get power, and it's based off population. Now, this was an issue. You should have learned this in U.S. history. If you had me last year, you really should have known this because we spent a good amount of time on this talking about it. Basically, you count the number of free people. Okay, people were bound to service. So people came from like England, Ireland, Italy, or whatever, who said, I'll work for 3 years as your servant, and then um, once the 3 years are up, then I can be, citizen. You just got to pay for my ride over there, food, boarding, and maybe a little money here and there. So that's what they meant, those people. So they counted as citizens, um, but it excluded Indians who did not pay taxes, and then they came to the three-fifths of all other persons, which meant slaves. Now, back when this was being written, there was a compromise basically saying between the free states and the slave states. The free states said that slaves should not count as people because they're not free and you don't treat them as people, whereas the slave owners basically said, no, they're people, look at them, they're people. And the free people were like, well, they're not free. The slave owners were like, well, they're people, so they should count as people. And the free was like, well, you don't give them the rights as people. You're making them work for nothing for you, you know. So they basically went into this back and forth, and they came to an agreement that African Americans, the slaves, were three-fifths of people. So now the thing is, we know that is false. Now we know people are people. So just because it says it in our Constitution, it doesn't mean that we practice it. Okay, so that's what it means. Now that's the end of this video. The second one will come up pretty soon. So just watch out for that. Okay, and I'll see you guys later in the next video.